Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and I'm continuing my Stephen King, who I've been doing lots and lots and lots by, mainly because of You Like It Darker. I wanted to cover that whole short story collection that just came out. And I'm going through very quickly all the stories in Night Shift because I already read all the stories like a year or more ago. And I did do a video that's kind of an overview of all of Night Shift, but I decided I wanted to go back and read everything in order of publication and go through them like I'm doing with so many other authors. And so now I'm into all that group of early stories that are mostly published in Night Shift. So I've already read them. So I can kick out a lot of videos without doing much reading because I've already done it. And I'm finding a lot in Night Shift that I really, really love. Um, the top tales coming out of Night Shift, we've had Graveyard Shift, I Am the Doorway, um, a bunch of others that are yet to come in covering early Stephen King short stories. And the story I want to talk about here, which is called Battleground. Now, some of you may be familiar with Battleground from when it appeared on television. It was made into a teleplay. I forget if it was Twilight Zone or if there was an anthology series that was just Stephen King stories. It might have been in there that I saw it. I forget. But the story was, well, it's his 21st story in my Stephen King bibliography, and it was published in Cavalier magazine in September of 1972. Cavalier magazine being a men's skin magazine, kind of sort of like Playboy, but not as good as Playboy, in my opinion. But they did publish a lot of Stephen King at a time when nobody else was publishing his work. Cavalier was picking it up and publishing it. And that was actually, you know, magazines like Cavalier paid better than the science fiction, fantasy, and horror genre magazines. They paid a lot better. So King was, in a way, better off going that route because he made more money. And of course, he got read by a lot more people than just science fiction geeks. Anyway, he published a lot of really brilliant stories during this time, and most of those early stories are in Night Shift. And this is my Cemetery Dance edition, which is in a beautiful slipcase and wonderfully illustrated throughout, not just the cover. Beautiful, beautiful book. Again, not something that's currently in print. You would have to find it used on the collector market, and it's going to set you back a bit because it is highly collectible, and it's a very nice volume of Night Shift. Although I do miss having that that early paperback of Night Shift with the hand with the eyes. That is one of the coolest images I've seen. The story Battleground, it's just a short story, but what a short story. In it, you have a hitman who receives a package in the mail. The package has a bunch of toy soldiers, whole set, with tanks and helicopter. And so he opens this up and he has these toy soldiers. Doesn't really know what the hell's going on until he finds that these toy soldiers come alive and he is caught in an assault from a whole toy army. There's kind of sort of a Twilight Zone episode in the original Twilight Zone series with Agnes Moorehead where she's being assaulted by what look like toys, but they're actually aliens. So very different story from this, but you get that same basic setup of this person that's being assaulted by what looks like toys, but they have real weapons and they are out to kill. Um, this one, though, because it's a familiar, I mean, I had the little plastic soldiers when I was a kid. It's a familiar children's toy that a lot of us grew up with. And the idea that these things would come alive and turn against us is terrifying and bizarre and surreal. And um, King makes a very tight, tense, action filled story out of this. Even though it's just a short story, this is amazing. This is an excellent, excellent example of how short stories can be really, truly great. So, this is a top tale. And I love this story. I recommend it to everybody. I recommend it to everybody because, I mean, unless you just hate anything that has anything fantastic to it, um, I can't imagine not liking this story. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that hate this story, and even people who love horror or science fiction or fantasy who hate this story. But I can't imagine why. It is. I found everything I want in this story. This is extremely well written, well plotted, tense, very imaginative. I saw nothing in this that I could criticize. So, if what do you think of Battleground? Leave me your comments. I want to hear them, especially if you don't agree with me about this story. I think it's a classic. I think it should be in collections of great American short stories. And come on back for the next that I'll be covering by Stephen King, which will again be from Night Shift. It's titled The Mangler. Join me for that and all the other Stephen King that I'm covering and all the other authors that we talk about here on Telltale Books. Till then, till you come back, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps us out. And I hope you'll join me.